This is the Intercontinental Broadcasting Corporation. Sa Bagong Pilipinas.
Good evening. This is 13 News.
Let's get into the headlines right now. First on 13 News, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. summons Chinese envoy over maritime incident at Ayungin Shoal, where 2 Filipinos got hurt.
On the 8th day of the impeachment trial, NBI Director Melvin Matibag says they have identified persons of interest in alleged threats against top officials.
President Marcos Jr. personally inspects the new passenger terminal building at the port of Lucena in Quezon.
A potential storm is likely to enter the Philippine area of responsibility this week.
And in news abroad, the United States strikes Iran again, triggering a possible surge in global oil prices.
All these and more here on 13 News.
First in the news tonight, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has summoned Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Jin Quan, at Malacanang.
The meeting comes a day after a Philippine Navy serviceman was injured during a confrontation between the China Coast Guard and Philippine Navy personnel at Ayungin Shoal. The president and the Chinese ambassador are currently in talks at Malacanang. The palace has yet to disclose details of the discussion, saying it involves matters of national security. Earlier, Malacanang said the president condemned the incident where a Philippine Navy serviceman assigned to the BRP Sierra Madre was struck in the head with a wooden baton by a member of the Chinese Coast Guard.
Amid this, the Armed Forces of the Philippines maintains that China Coast Guard personnel deliberately provoked Philippine troops during the encounter. IBC News correspondent Bea Peniza reports.
In this video released by China, a confrontation between Chinese and Philippine personnel can be seen at the Ayungin Shoal on July 20, with Beijing claiming that the Philippines initiated the standoff. China alleged that Filipino troops approached their personnel first and attempted to strike them. The Armed Forces of the Philippines has strongly denied these claims, stressing that the video was spliced and did not show the entire incident.
You would see that their boats came into close proximity of BRP Sierra Madre. In fact, part of the video you can already see that they were quite close to the ship, to BRP Sierra Madre. That is already a self-incriminating video at naipapakita naman doon sila ay lumapit. So yung action ng ating mga rubber boats was merely to drive them away. And it was non-confrontational, it was defensive in nature, it was within the rules of engagements.
The incident left 2 Philippine Navy personnel with head injuries, while others suffered bruises on the arm and the hand. The Philippine Coast Guard conducted a medical evacuation operation using BRP Melchora Aquino and BRP Malapascua to assist the injured troops. Meanwhile, the military believes that the release of the video is part of China's effort.
Bakit? Bugbog sila, talunan sila. So kailan lang bumawi is a narrative, that's why they came out with this. Na nag-backfire, I could say nag-backfire naman sa kanila ito.
Several government agencies already condemned the alleged harassment committed by China. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs, any form of violence against Philippine troops is unacceptable. Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Department of National Defense assured the public that despite of what they describe as acts of intimidation and aggression, they will continue to fulfill their mandate of defending the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. New AFP Chief of Staff General Antonio Navarrete also expressed confidence in the professionalism of Filipino troops operating in the West Philippine Sea.
Well, I think they're doing their job very professional, and I think we're in a position of telling them to get away from LS 57 atin yun, military post natin.
Meanwhile, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has also condemned the incident.
Hindi po nadadaan sa dahas ang anumang pakikipaglaban sa karapatan. Hindi pinag-uusapan dito ang laki ng iyong teritoryo. ang lakas ng iyong pwersa, kundi pakikipaglaban sa katotohanan at kung ano ang iyong karapatan.
The palace said the president does not condone such acts and reiterated the government's commitment to protecting Filipino personnel assigned to BRP Sierra Madre. The United States also condemned China's action. Department of State spokesperson Tommy Pigot described it as dangerous and aggressive, while also calling on China to cease its destabilizing acts. Bea Piniza of IBC News.
Of Vice President Sara Duterte's trial focused on Article 4, which addresses grave threats and inciting to sedition. NBI Director Melvin Matibag, who served as a witness, said it has identified persons of interest who are alleged hired assassins of the VP. IBC correspondent Patrick Gupo has more on today's impeachment proceedings.
The 8th day of the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte centered on the testimony of National Bureau of Investigation Director Melvin Matibag, who maintained that the Vice President's alleged statements against President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. had evolved beyond mere threats and should be treated as a matter of national security. Matibag told the Senate Impeachment Court that the NBI created a special task force under Administrative Order No. 11 after assessing the alleged threats as serious, active, and continuing.
Ito ay nag-transcend na sa banta po sa ating national security sapagkat anumang pong banta sa ating Pangulo ay banta sa seguridad ng ating bansa.
Matibag testified that investigators also examined statements made by Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte during an April 2026 Rage Coalition rally alongside Vice President Duterte's October 2024 online press conference. Videos of both events were presented before the impeachment court, with the prosecution arguing that the statements reflected a similar theme involving the president. According to Matibag, investigators also looked into a possible connection between the statements as part of their continuing investigation.
Kapansin-pansin po na makikita natin na nanggagaling sa isang pamilya ang pagbabanta sa ating Pangulo at parehas na nag-refer sa ulo ng Pangulo. Kung kaya naman, iniisip po ba namin kung meron bang kasabwat o may sabwatan sa pangyayaring ito?
The prosecution likewise presented a 2011 video showing Duterte striking a court sheriff in Davao City, which the NBI said was reviewed as part of its assessment of an alleged pattern of violence. Matibag also disclosed that investigators examined the affidavit of self-confessed Davao Death Squad member Arturo Las Cañas as an intelligence lead. The defense objected, arguing that the document had neither a signature nor notarization and should not be considered reliable evidence. During cross-examination, Matibag denied being coached by the prosecution before taking the witness stand and maintained that his meetings with House prosecutors were limited to discussing the scope of his testimony. He also confirmed that his wife, Representative Ann Matibag, endorsed the articles of impeachment but insisted that her role as a legislator is completely separate from his work as NBI director. Responding to questions from senator judges, Matibag said the investigation into the alleged hired assassins remains ongoing, with persons of interest already identified, although he declined to disclose their identities. He also testified that the Department of Justice has yet to determine whether there is sufficient basis for allegations that Vice President Duterte hired an assassin, but emphasized that the NBI's investigation remains active. Patrick Gupo, IBC News.
8th day of trial marked the conclusion of the prosecution's presentation of evidence for Article 4, with questions now turning to whether its case has sufficiently established the allegations of grave threats and inciting to sedition. To help us break down today's key developments, we are joined tonight by lawyer and former House prosecutor in the Chief Justice Renato Corona impeachment trial, Attorney Gigi Agabao.
Good evening, William.
Yes, good evening, attorney, and it's good to have you back with us today, sir.
Same here.
Okay.
William.
Yes, attorney, today's testimony from NBI Director Melvin Matibag cited that the alleged threats against the president as a national security issue rather than an ordinary criminal matter. From a legal standpoint po, how significant is this in the strengthening of the impeachment case?
Well, if you asked me, the principal issue here actually is grave threat. And in my opinion, the elements of grave threat have been sufficiently established by the testimony of NBI Kalilung and Attorney Lotok. No? So that said, I think at this point, it's fairly established that grave threat is there. Now, on the issue of national security, to me, this is important as it relates to the other issue, which is inciting to sedition. No? It's important because it's important for the people to know that not only is the grave utterances, the grave threat made by the Vice President criminal in itself, but this has an effect on the national security of the nation. No? I think based on the testimony of NBI Director Matibag, the investigation is continuing no longer on the aspect too much of the grave threat, but on the issue of national security.
Okay, Attorney, the prosecution also presented a 2011 video of VP Sara Duterte, which was a Davao City mayor allegedly assaulting a court sheriff, along with other evidence to establish an alleged pattern of behavior. In an impeachment trial, how much weight can this kind of evidence carry, especially when the defense questions its relevance?
Well, according to Director Matibag, one of the elements that they look into on matters of threat assessment is the pattern of violence, no? And I think that the video shown where the Vice President was seen, assaulting a sheriff, shows the pattern of violence. And this is, I think, the idea of the whole video. Again, that's very relevant because even as shown, this adds to the intention. It goes into the intention of the issue on grave threat. No? So yes, this is important. Contrary to the position of the defense, this is important to show the pattern of violence on the part of the Vice President.
Okay, and lastly, with NBI Director Matibag serving as the prosecution's final witness for Article 4, does the prosecution have enough evidence to support the allegations of grave threats and inciting to sedition, or are there still legal gaps that the defense could capitalize on, sir?
Well, as I said, the entire element, the complete element of grave threat as it stands has been fully established. And even outside the testimony of NBI Director Matibag, I would argue that the issue of grave threat is ripe for adjudication by the impeachment court. Of course, we still have to hear the defense of the evidence of the defense, no? But purely from the prosecution side, I think everything that needs to be proven has been done.
Okay, thank you very much, Attorney Agabao, for your time. And of course, we will hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, William.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. personally inspected the newly improved passenger terminal building at the Port of Lucena in Quezon Province. This is to review the close-to-completion terminal designed to improve port operations as well as the safety and convenience of passengers. IBC News correspondent Harley Valbuena has the full report.
From a small and crowded terminal, passengers at the Port of Lucena in Quezon will soon enjoy a larger, more comfortable, and modern terminal. This with the new passenger terminal building which President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. inspected today. The new terminal can accommodate up to 1,000 passengers. It features automated ticketing booths, clean restrooms, a proper ventilation system, and other modern amenities. The terminal will serve passengers traveling on the Lucena-Masbate, Lucena Marinduque, and Lucena Romblon routes.
The traffic going through Lucena, Lucena Port, is approximately 500,000 travelers every year. Kaya kailangan talaga i-upgrade na yung ating mga facilities at saka maglagay tayo para matulungan ng ating mga traveling public.
Mas maganda kasi maluwan ang pagbiyahe namin, ganun.
The project cost more than 153 million pesos and is expected to be fully operational before All Saints Day, when a large number of travelers are expected. According to the Philippine Ports Authority or PPA, the new passenger terminal will also be open to accommodate stranded passengers during bad weather. The President also led the distribution of Certificate of Entitlements to 100 families in Lucena under the expanded Pambansang Pabahay para sa Pilipino program. He also launched the Bawat Bayan Makikinabang program in the city, where 10 kilos of rice were distributed to senior citizens and other indigent citizens. 20,000 pesos financial assistance were also handed out to presidential scholars as part of the 200,000 pesos financial aid for every barangay.
Pag pinaganda natin na mabuti ito at nakita natin na mas maganda ang maging resulta kaysa sa dati, sisikapin namin pag sa susunod na budget ay dagdagan pa natin para maparami pa natin ang scholar, maparami pa natin ang tulong sa ating mga barangay.
Harley Valbuena, IBC News.
Tonight, Pag-asa is closely monitoring the low-pressure area outside the Philippine area of responsibility. It was last located 1,505 kilometers east of eastern Visayas and is seen to enter PAR within 24 hours. The LPA has a high chance of developing into a tropical depression, possibly tomorrow, and will be named Quiapo. As of now, the trough of the LPA is bringing cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms over the eastern Visayas. Meanwhile, over Mindanao, western Visayas, Negros Island region, central Visayas, and Palawan expect cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms due to the southwest monsoon. While here in Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon, it will still be cloudy with isolated rains due to localized thunderstorms. Coming up next, the DSWD continues to expand its Uplift Assistance Program across the country. Stay tuned. This is 13 News.
Bagong Pilipinas. Mahalaga ang kapakanan ng bawat isa. Lahat ng aspeto ng lipunan pinagtutuunan ng pansin ng pamahalaan at ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Bagong Pilipinas, PBBM, Lingkod ng Bayan. Tuwing Linggo, alas 8:30 ng umaga.
Welcome back to the program. The Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Philippine National Police have intercepted 17 master cases of illicit cigarettes in Davao Oriental. The shipment was seized during a law enforcement operation in Barangay Poblacion, Municipality of Governor Generoso. It carries an estimated excise tax liability of 6.5 million pesos. Authorities have placed the confiscated goods under police custody before turning them over to the BIR for inspection and assessment.
Following the initial and succeeding rollout of the Uplift program assistance, the DSWD continues the distribution of aid to qualified beneficiaries across the country. More than 1.4 million beneficiaries have already received the one-time cash assistance of 2,000 pesos from Group 1, including qualified 4Ps and Walang Gutom program beneficiaries. Low-wage earners under Group 2 in several regions, including National Capital Region, Cordillera, Western and Central Visayas, and Calabarzon, Ilocos, and Bicol region have also received financial assistance through manual payouts. Meanwhile, the DSWD says eligible Group 3 beneficiaries with a Social Security System or SSS monthly salary credit of 20,000 pesos and below will no longer be required to undergo manual verification. Beneficiaries are advised to monitor official DSWD advisories for updates and other announcements regarding Uplift program assistance.
Meanwhile, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has expressed full support for a new active transport project in Naga City. The palace says the major project could become a model for similar initiatives in other parts of the country. Let's have the full report from Jinky Baticados.
Safer roads, wider sidewalks, and better pathways for pedestrian and cyclists. That is the support pledged by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. for the Naga City Sidewalk and Active Transport Project. The flagship project aims to make one of Naga City's busiest roads safer and more accessible, benefiting thousands of pedestrians, cyclists, and commuters.
We'll give all-out support to this. Ito ang naging sagot ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. matapos makita ang Naga City Sidewalk and Active Transport Project.
According to Malacanang, the president immediately endorsed the project, which could serve as a model for active transport infrastructure in other urban areas across the country.
Ayon kay DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon, walang pag-aatubiling nagpahayag ng suporta ang Pangulo sa proyekto na maaaring maging pioneering project na gaganapin or gagamitin sa iba pang urban areas sa buong bansa.
The Department of Public Works and Highways is set to begin road upgrade activities this month. The project includes wider, obstruction-free sidewalks, dedicated bicycle lanes, solar-powered streetlights, tactile pavements for the visually impaired, and accessible curb ramps for persons with disabilities. Once completed, the project is expected to make daily travel along MT Villanueva Avenue safer, more orderly, and more convenient for thousands of road users. The project could also serve as a model for building more pedestrian-friendly, accessible, and inclusive roads in other cities across the country. Jinky Baticados, IBC News.
The 59th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting formally opened today at the Philippine International Convention Center. The opening ceremony was led by Secretary of Foreign Affairs and ASEAN Chair Maria Therese Lazaro's remarks. The meeting covered regional priorities and preparations for the 59th ASEAN Summit, which the Philippines will host this November.
We must continue this journey together because cooperation is no longer a choice. It is a strategic necessity. This is about our future because we hold the ultimate responsibility to define the destiny of our peoples.
Meanwhile, the Philippines and Japan co-hosted the second ASEAN Capacity Building Workshop on Strategic Trade Management held in Tokyo. The workshop reaffirmed the commitment of ASEAN member states to strengthen regional cooperation through continued dialogue and capacity building in strategic trade management.
Sagay City in Negros Occidental has captured the championship title at the 2026 Pony International Softball World Series in McAllen, Texas, United States of America. The Sagay Softbells defeated Mexico in the finals of the girls 14 under division, emerging as champions over a field of more than 30 teams just a year after finishing fourth in the same tournament. The Department of Education and the Sagay City government hailed the team's historic achievement, saying it reflects the Philippines' continued rise in international softball.
Marvel fans, buckle up. Marvel Studios has released the official trailer for Avengers Doomsday, bringing together some of the biggest superheroes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for an epic showdown. The film features the Avengers, X-Men, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and the Wakandans, marking one of Marvel's largest crossover events to date. And yes, the god of time and stories himself, Loki, is back in the mix straight from the TVA. The massive ensemble film features Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, alongside Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, and many more. Avengers Doomsday is set for a worldwide theatrical release on December 18, 2026. Veteran broadcast journalist Cara David and actress content creator Ivana Alawi shared the Best Host for Public Service Award at the first ever FAMAS Broadcast Arts Awards. The event recognized outstanding achievements in television, radio, and new media across the Philippines. David was recognized for her program, I-Listen with Cara David, while Alawi was honored for her public service content on digital platform. A remarkable tie became one of the most talked about moments of the awards night. This comes after Ivana Alawi went viral over her content of giving 100 iPhone 17 units, which sparked mixed reactions online. The United States' renewed strikes against Iran are shaking global oil markets once again. The shock is rippling across Asia, with Philippine motorists facing another round of pump price hikes this week. ASEAN leaders voiced concerns for regional peace and stability. IBC correspondent Ezra Abad has the full report.
The United States Central Command Center, or CENTCOM, reports it conducted another round of missile strikes against Iran, targeting military command centers, maritime capabilities, missile and drone launch sites for the 10th consecutive night. The attacks are meant to immobilize Iran to prevent its attacks on commercial shipping lines passing through the Strait of Hormuz. The war is hitting American wallets once again. U.S. gas prices jumped back to $4 per gallon on average. That's 13 cents more expensive than it was a week ago, and far higher than where prices stood at this time last year. Fuel costs also hit local pumps in the Philippines. Effective today, gasoline increased by more than 3 pesos, diesel by a whopping 10 pesos, and kerosene by over 11 pesos per liter. Amid rising oil prices, the Marcos administration assures that fuel assistance will continue for drivers and operators of public utility vehicles. According to Malacanang, 2.5 billion pesos has been allocated for fuel subsidies.
Alam naman natin na continuous ang order ng Pangulo sa lahat ng ahensya para po ma-stabilize ang mga presyo ng fuel.
The soaring gas prices amid renewed Middle East conflict takes center stage at the 59th ASEAN Leaders Meeting. ASEAN leaders called for restoration and passage of vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, in accordance with the 1982 UNCLOS and the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea. The minister strongly urges the United States and Iran to make amends through peaceful means.
The 59th ASEAN Ministerial Meeting has conferred sectoral dialogue partner status to Germany. Similarly, the ministerial meeting also decided to likewise confer the sectoral dialogue partner status to the state of Qatar.
Ezra Abad, IBC News.
An anti-ICE activist sets fire to the entrance of 26 Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan, New York. This as U.S. President Donald Trump orders a 50% tariff on a number of Canadian goods. CJ Reyes has more of these international developments.
Guys, oh my God!
A former U.S. Army veteran set fire to the front of a federal building in New York City, injuring 3 people. Authorities believe the act was a protest against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, as the suspect, identified as 43-year-old Andrew Arabaca, is an anti-ICE activist. The suspect, who was already taken into custody, was carrying anti-ICE materials, including a card displaying the slogan, "ICE off our streets." U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a 50% tariff on a wide range of Canadian goods, including alcoholic beverages, dairy products, and clothing. Trump claimed that Canada has imposed discriminatory trade practices against American goods, such as automobiles, alcohol, and dairy products. In response, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said the new tariffs violate the Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement. He reaffirmed that Canada remains open to talks, but vowed to take whatever measures are necessary to protect the country's economy, workers, and most especially its sovereignty if the dispute continues. Meanwhile, Chinese commercial aerospace company Orion Space is set to launch the third flight of its Gravity 1 rocket from Shandong province tomorrow. Gravity 1, also known as Yinli 1, is the world's largest and most capable all-solid propellant orbital rocket. It also holds the record as the highest payload rocket to reach orbit using only solid propellant motors. CJ Reyes, IBC News.
Before we wrap up tonight's newscast, we bring you the results of the PCSO's 9 p.m. lottery draws. For the Lotto 642, the winning numbers are 17, 41, 13, 10, 38, and 16 with a jackpot prize of 10 million pesos. For the Super Lotto 649, the winning combination is 48, 15, 37, 44, 8, and 42 with a jackpot price of 82,277,097 pesos and 70 centavos. For the Ultra Lotto 658, the winning combination is 47, 49, 17, 31, 28, and 30 with a jackpot price of 148,191,891 pesos and 86 centavos. For the 6D Lotto, the winning combination in exact order is 4, 6, 8, 1, 7, and 0. For the 3D Lotto, the winning numbers are 6, 6, and 7. And finally, for the 2D Lotto draw, the winning numbers are 27 and 24. There is no winner for the Lotto 642, Super Lotto 649, and Ultra Lotto 658. And those were the latest from the IBC newsroom this evening.
We'll continue to monitor the stories that matter and give you updates as they develop. I'm Angela C.
And I'm William Thio. This is 30 News. Thank you for watching. Good night, everyone.